Training-Falmouth, Tony Dow, and Terry Mathers as the Beaver.
Well, here we are again to another edition of Neighborhood Training. We took a short break for the summertime, and first couple of weeks of August anyway, took a little break, and now we're going to jump right back into it. And where we're going to start out today is in North Falmouth. We're going to be working in the neighborhood of north of 151 and east of 28A. We're going to look at the Summerwind, the Silver Point in the North Hill, and the Perry Road neighborhoods of Falmouth. As you can see from this map here, just as an overview, we do have Route 28 running in the backyard of a lot of these houses. And something to keep in mind, we did have a fire recently up on Westmoreland Drive where someone had reported from the highway a fire through the woods, and they couldn't pinpoint exactly where it was. And Captain Marshall was able to pick up off of his GPS that the fire was actually in Westmoreland back from driving down the highway. So, keep in mind, folks might report a fire, along here, and that's the area that we're dealing with. All right, now focus in just briefly. I want to work on work down this area here of yeah, that's what I want, right in here. Whoop, get up here. Things being funny here today. Come on. I don't know why it's doing that. Well, let's see what we can do here. All right. Now, first I want to focus in on the Summerwind area. I don't know why it's not doing that. Okay. Let's get a little better focus here. Okay. Sorry about that. Don't know why it's doing that. But, okay. That's a little bit better, eh? Okay. So this is the Summerwind development off of Route 151. As we are all familiar, there's the interchange for the highway right there. And right down the road we have Summerwind Estates right off of 28A. And we do Old County Road. Up here, this is a relatively new development, I think 10 to 15 years probably. Yeah, we're there, and that's Old County, and then Summerwind Lane over here. I don't know what they've this Wax Wing Road. I don't know what's going on with Google here, but that's what they're showing there. And these are all single-family homes. Probably I'd say in the 2,000 square foot, 2,000 square foot range. Anyway, a lot of nice homes, some setbacks as we can see from the road. So, they are nice places. And we'll work our way down to the intersection of 151 and 28A. And this area, as I'm sure we're all familiar, is the business district of this intersection right here. It is business zoned, so we do have a few businesses around there, and we'll deal with each of those as we go to each side of the intersection there. But what we're going to be looking at as our, I guess you'd call them target hazards, whatever, is the House of Pizza and the real estate associates as far as being on this quadrant of this intersection. We did have a fire in the House of Pizza probably 5 years or so ago, so that's all been rebuilt. And we'll go into the Pebble Lane. It's actually has a sign up there called Silver Point. So this is the Silver Point or Pebble Lane development, and main entrance off of there in Pebble runs all the way up and comes around in the circle up here. And we have the first road on the left is Upshore, and then we have Red Wing Terrace here, and I believe this little cul-de-sac here is Camelot Circle. We'll see as we come up. But again, these are all single-family wood frame houses. I took a drive up there. I didn't see any accessory apartments, but I'm sure there might be a couple of them in there, but it didn't seem to be any substantial business. And then we get into the North Hill development, which is going to be a little confusing, and so we'll make sure we spend a lot of time going through each of the roads there. But the main entry roads are Heather Lane and North Hill Drive. And the first road that connects the two of them is Wohelo. And the thing that I want to work out is this development has about 104 houses in it, so it is pretty substantial. It was built in two phases, where they have the front phase up here. The Heather and Heather Lane runs around, and then they added this back section on as phase 2. So we'll follow this road network more in depth than Google has right here. And then we have Perry Road running up, and once again, all single-family dwellings. And one thing we also will spend a little bit of time on is a road in Bourne called James West Road, and it starts up here, but there is two houses that are right around in here that are in Falmouth. So if we do have to access them, and I think we've been up there a couple times for rescues, so we have to go into Bourne, come back, and we won't forget if we see a 911 come up for James West Road that they're in. The other thing that we will look at is this house here has a very long setback, and I did measure that distance, and it's about 11 to 1,200 feet from a hydrant right on the corner here. So someone's way back in the woods. So just something to keep in mind. All right. I think we will next go and look at this map here. Okay. This shows us a little bit more of what we're talking about of Summerwind. What I want to point out too is all of these developments have hydrants throughout. They're all 8-inch mains off of a 12-inch main. North Falmouth off of 28A did have some pressure problems in past years. I think that's been corrected recently, especially in the summertime they were having pressure problems, but I think that's been corrected. So there we go. There's Old County and Summerwind, and you see the way the houses are set up. And right here we have the Higgin Electric. They're kind of a home business there. And you see as we go through some of these maps, one of the reasons why I wanted to deal with this quadrant or this area as a neighborhood is there's a lot of old cart paths and roads that connect each development to each other. So it is kind of a neighborhood and a place that people can go from one place to the other. All right, now we'll see if this map will allow us to, there we go. Okay, so there we go. Now we're looking at the, what they call the Silver Point or Pebble Lane development. And here's, we talked about before, of Upshore Drive, a little cul-de-sac, a hydrant right in, and then Red Wing Terrace, and running down we see Camelot Court with a couple of houses on it, and then the beginning of, well, the circle around of Pebble Lane. So it's pretty easy. Remember Pebble Lane, Camelot, Red Wing, Upshore, and that's about the way we'll work on that. All right, now let's go over to the North Hill area in here. Now, one of the things we do want to work out in here is, okay, so Heather Lane starts right off of 28A, and then Heather Lane, let's see if we can show this here. It gets a little tricky. We have Rohilo that catches the two of them together, North Hill. But Heather Lane, if you'll notice the numbers here, I might be able to zoom in a little closer. Heather Lane numbers. Heather Lane comes up this intersection here, goes up, comes around, and back. Okay? So when you're first coming up, Rohilo is not too hard to miss there. But as you come up to this intersection here, if you take a right, you end up on Tara, which runs you up in here. But Heather runs up straight and then loops around. And then you think that when you come in off of North Hill, you'd think that this would be North Hill Drive all the way up. But as you can see, the numbers change right up in here. We go from 40 to 74, right next to each other. So obviously something happens right there, and what happens is that North Hill comes up here and stops, and Heather comes around. Okay, so just keep that in mind, the way this sets up. And then we end up getting into Frederick Douglass Road, which is, as I mentioned before, kind of like that phase 2 of the development. When it went in, I think Dave Peterson did the phase 2 of this development. So Tara Lane runs up here, and then we have Stephen P. Wentworth and Arthur Hennessy Road off of them. So, and let's see, we'll just zoom in one more time. Excuse me. Okay, and that shows Stephen P. Wentworth, the short, small circle, and Arthur Hennessy, same thing. And the Arthur Hennessy is the one that backs up to the highway as well. So, okay. All right. So, let's just zoom out here, and we'll just we'll go quickly over to Perry Road, which is basically a in and out cul-de-sac. Let this map fill in here a second. Most of the houses in North Hill, I would say, are in the 1,500 to 2,000 square foot range. So, okay, so as I mentioned before, we do have these little cart paths and dirt roads that are connecting these. When we see these roads up in here, they don't exist. They're basically map roads they're just on some town plan from years ago. So, we disregard. If we look at some town maps, we'll see, that these are on there. But just don't get thrown off, especially dispatchers, or if you're given directions, don't use these roads. Don't say there's a second Water Street, behind the house. And as I say, Perry Road connected in. Now, here's where we see the James West Road here that comes in off of Bourne, and we do have this house. I think there's one or two houses here that are actually, this is the town line right up here, and we do have a house down the end, and I believe they built another one further down. Maybe this is the one here that's actually in, and this is the one with that long driveway, 753 North Falmouth Highway, 1,200 foot approximately driveway as we go back. Okay, that is that one there. Let's see, take a quick look here. This is the town map that shows our water system, and once again, this is the James West Road. It doesn't show any water, but I think there's a hydrant in Bourne that connects and brings it in. So we have to, and this is our hydrant if we want to get to this house down the end. And we have 8-inch mains all around. Let's see if we can just pull this up here. I don't know if that's going to work. Okay. This is a good map resource from the town's website using the GIS. It's a little cranky, but there we go, just kind of showing our road network. Our water network that's up there. As I mentioned, 8-inch off of 12, so we're in pretty good shape for water. Okay, enough of that. And let's just pop up some of the, let's see, this was just a typical house, a gambrel, typical for any one of the neighborhoods that are there. I think this one here is in North Hill. Gambrel with a garage in the back. That's typical for the neighborhood. And this is just the sign that you'll see as you go into Pebble Lane, Silver Point, hydrant right at the beginning. So we're in good shape there. And then just two of our target hazards: the infamous House of Pizza at the intersection, and the Real Estate Associates building. And this building here it was built the same way that the House of Pizza was. It was a lot of rehab and add-ons and so forth until that burned. And this building here is the same way. It's been added on several times, so hopefully we won't have a fire in it. But it is really small, but it's got a lot of concealed spaces. I think that's what we had our problems with the House of Pizza when it did burn. Okay, and I think the last thing I want to just, as a review, we'll just go over what we have already discussed, is the Silver Point, the neighborhood, Summerwind, Silver Point, North Hill, Perry Road, and we're talking about 220 single-family dwellings, wood frame, built in the mid-60s to the current, so that kind of gives you an idea of some of the construction features. We're not talking about houses that were built in the 30s or the 20s or the 1800s. We're talking about pretty modern construction. We're talking about a lot of probably some truss construction, plywood. All these houses have full foundations, I would reckon to guess, in modern building codes. So, just something to keep in mind. Probably be beneficial. About approximately 440 residents, I would guess, roughly, residential. And here we go. Summerwind is Old County, and Summerwind Lane, Silver Point is Pebble Lane, Upshore, Red Wing, and Camelot. North Hill is Heather Lane and North Hill are the two main roads coming off Tara, Rohilo, Frederick Douglass, and Stephen P. Wentworth and Arthur Hennessy. We mentioned there's our 8-inch. Now, what I wanted to talk briefly about, as we always do, is about travel times and response time, because that's what we're all about, right? Station 3, like 1 mile response time approximately. So talk about a dispatch time. The dispatcher's got to turn out calls quickly. We get out the door quickly. So if dispatch takes a minute, you're getting on board the apparatus takes another minute, and then travel time to get 1 mile. Especially in this area here, you're probably talking like a 4-minute your response time from the time that we get the call to the time that you're actually on scene. So it's critical, and people say, well, you're only a mile down the street. It took you 4 minutes to get here, 4 or 5 minutes to get here. But that's as we're looking at. So this is something you're going to have. And then Station 4, your second due engine. It's 4.3 miles down the road, so once again, the Station 3 folks are going to be on your own for a few minutes until 24 gets there as a second piece, and then by the time you get the ladder truck and your third engine and the headquarters personnel up there, 8.7 miles, they're talking 10 to 13 minutes. So everything should be set up and going. The duty officer will take about the same amount of time. So Station 3 personnel, you're basically going to be on your own for up to 6 to 10 minutes. So you got to make sure things are set up, and your actions in the very beginning are going to be important, whether it's a medical or a fire. So then we have our other apparatus if we need for a second alarm, or if one of the engines or one of the ambulances is tied up already. Station 5 is 9.2 miles away, so quite a distance. Station 2 is 11 miles, so that's quite a bit. Bourne is 3.5 miles away, and Mashpee is 7 miles down 151. So if we have to call in, or the another piece of apparatus is tied up, or the rescue is tied up, we've got some significant distances here to wait. Okay, so that about wraps up the this quadrant of the 151 intersection. And I want to thank you, and hopefully this has been helpful to you. All right? Stay safe and eat healthy.